Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents, where there's always hijinks. Hard to imagine that we are at the close of yet another season here at Sky 13. The new season starts Monday, and I'm just really grateful to still be here with you guys. I'm grateful for your viewership and your loyalty. I want to extend my thanks to the ownership at Sky 13, Steve Mandera. You know, the staff here at the studio. Nate is fabulous. Mike is fabulous. I have a fantastic crew who are friends as well as just crew. I mean, there's never just crew, but you know, I've got Nancy, who's not here tonight, and hoping that she's feeling better. I've got at the helm Zach, who is, I call him all the time, the boy genius. 17 years old, and this kid can do this stuff in his sleep. So Zach, don't ever go anywhere, don't ever get a life, because we need you. He's laughing in there. He already doesn't have one. Don't ever get one, okay? And my friend Speedo, John, sitting here with me in the studio every week, the man who pushes the button to record the show. And that's really important. We've got over 3,600 views on YouTube, which I'm really thankful and grateful and proud of. Pound Posse Presents Facebook page. I put a little thing up there on my own wall today on Facebook. Can we get like the likes up a little bit? So go on and like my page. It's not going to hurt you. Make me feel better about myself, okay? Anyway, even though we've had some closings for weather, I've had a couple of nights where I haven't really felt well and haven't been here, and you know, I heard Speedo say on his show last week, the two that he did, you know, I've got to be dying not to be here. It's got to be pretty real if I don't make a show, because I love doing it. And you know, new season starts Monday. Next week will be a brand new deal, and I hope to be able to provide you guys with some pretty good guests. I got some things in the works, and it's not, you know, it's not always as easy as you would think. You know, you call someone up and say, hey, come on the show, and everybody's got a life, and everybody's got red tape and all that. But I keep promising good things, and they're coming. I do promise that. Anyway, you know, I'm always talking about the Forever Rescued calendar and the Forever Rescued Foundation. The Forever Rescued Foundation has their Facebook page, and they love to post my dear friend Jessica, who actually, was interestingly enough, for all of the involvement that we've had with each other, it's all been online, emails, texts, all that. We finally got to talk on the phone. I mean, I wrote the entire thing for the calendar. We never spoke a word on the phone. Can you imagine? We finally spoke this week, so love you, Jessica. Anyway, she loves to post stories of your rescue animals on the Forever Rescued page. So go check it out, go like it. If your dog or cat or whatever has a story to tell, go message it to her, send her some pictures. She'd love to post it. Let your dog be a star for the day. It's pretty cool. You know, the calendar contest is in full swing, and that's not for everybody. You know, people don't always like to have to put themselves out there and be at the mercy of other people voting. This is the kind of thing where she gets them all up there. So if you've got a story you want to tell, by all means, do it, because everybody loves to see a little something about their pet and make it really special. So go ahead, go do it. Tell her I sent you. Don't tell her I sent you. Just do it. I admin on Facebook a number of pages and groups, and one of them, it's a rescue page that, you know, it tries to get animals out of bad situations and into either a better home or a foster or even a rescue, if there's room in a rescue that can take an animal in. You know, it's not primarily for an animal that's in a shelter. It's more or less for an animal that's in a bad way, on the street, in a home. You know, a lot of these Craigslist postings are just dangerous. So, you know, we do our share. There's a really awesome group of people who participate, and, you know, there's been a lot of happy endings to stories that could have been really, really misfortunes. But there was a post the other day that someone made that was an article about some of the horrors that had gone on in a particular rescue group. And, you know, it spurred a bit of a conversation. And the question that was posed was, what makes a good rescue? Well, you know, that's a very, very broad question. And there's a lot of things that fall into an answer for that question. Now, I'm going to say that in anything that I say from here forward, I'm not trying to finger anybody. I don't have anybody particular in mind. You know, if the shoe fits, wear it, but I'm definitely not targeting anybody. There's a big difference between a rescue and a rescuer. You know, a rescuer is someone who pretty much independently will take on the cause and champion for animals and you know, take them in, home them, etc., and so on. A rescue, just because you have a Facebook page doesn't make you a rescue. Just because you take in and place animals doesn't make you a rescue. You know, there's no magical anointment on your forehead that makes you a rescue. There's a whole lot more to it than all of that. And you know, when you're dealing with some of these people or rescues, you really always have to listen to your instincts first and foremost. You know, there was a boss that I had for quite a few years, and he was always putting his philosophy on life into things, and sometimes you were just like, all right, you know, you're just a little too much. But I have to say there were some really good lessons in life that the man had to teach. And he used to say, it has to pass the smell test. If it doesn't smell good, then it's not good. You know, if it smells bad, it's wrong. If it doesn't all add up, etc., and so on, then obviously you got to look at it even closer. So really, you've got to listen to your instincts, listen to that little voice. If something doesn't seem right about a situation, it's probably not. You know, you could just be being overcautious, and that's not necessarily a bad thing in a lot of situations, but especially when there's a life at stake. You know, when you're talking about what makes a good rescue, well, you know, animals in their care that are going up for adoption should all be spayed or neutered, depending on male or female. They should all be vaccinated, and they should all be healthy. You know, some animals, depending on where they came from, what their past situation was, may have some health issues that are ongoing, that are either going to be long-term or they're still in the process of healing from something that happened to them. But that's something that an adopter should be made aware of. There should be full disclosure before the adoption. You know, there should be no surprises when somebody takes home an animal. I mean, obviously there are some things that are just unforeseeable, and you really can't hold a rescue accountable for, you know, an animal's health down the road because there's just no way to know. But if you take home an animal, you know, that's going to have issues, then yes, an adopter should be made very well aware of that, as long as it's something that the rescue knew. I mean, you know, these animals should be checked out, so there shouldn't be a lot of surprises, although again, there's certain, you know, examinations and certain levels of things that people just, you know, they're not going to do in the normal course of a wellness check. So that's all something to take into consideration. You know, you get a lot of these dogs that come out of shelters with mange and injuries and all that. I'm not talking about that. That's stuff that usually a shelter or a good rescue will clear up before the animal goes home. There are times when, you know, it's almost behind the animal, or the adopter's willing to take on, you know, the burden, so to speak. And that's totally not what I'm talking about. You know, I'm talking about like those shady moves that you're trying to just pawn off something that has a problem. A good rescue will have a thorough adoption process. There'll be an application, there'll be vet references, sometimes there's a home check. Sometimes it's the process is a little too invasive, maybe a little too over the top. Oh, you can't live this close to a street, and you've got to have a fenced-in yard. Some of it's over the top, but there should be a process where people are screened, and just because somebody wants to adopt an animal doesn't necessarily mean that that's the place the animal should land. And there definitely has to be a screening process, or you could just be anybody. That gets into that whole subcategory of dog flippers and people who are just out to turn a buck on an animal, and that's really not what you're looking for. A good rescue, there's a lot of debate about the fees that are charged. It should be reasonable. It should definitely be reasonable, and everybody's always looking for support, but the pleas for support should substantiate the animals that they have in their care. If there's medical cases, if there are sick dogs, there are some rescues who will take in because they have the support required to treat them. They need more help than others. But, if there's always something going on to, oh, help us with this and help us with that, and there's no real visible reason for having to put out those cries for help, you got to start wondering if they're just making a profit. As I was starting to say, just because you have a Facebook page doesn't make you a rescue. Just because you tell people that, oh yeah, we're doing rescue now, and there's quite a few people who made phone calls off of this page that I admin. People are like, oh yeah, well we're a rescue, and really. Where are you? You have to register with the state. You have to incorporate with the state. I mean, I can tell you in Connecticut, that's a fact. And there's a website that you can go check, the ct.gov something or other. It's on the Pound Posse Presents page. I posted it before I left the house. You can see if the organization is registered with the state. Furthermore, most rescues, because they do fundraisers and stuff like that, they have to be a nonprofit, a 501c3. And that is another whole nightmare of paperwork that has to be filed through the IRS. And that's public information. So you can go onto the IRS website and find out if an organization that you intend to support is truly registered with the IRS as a nonprofit. That website is also posted on the Pound Posse Presents Facebook page. It's quite interesting to go on there, and you can just put in the name of any place you want, and if it's legit, it's going to come up. Now, I don't know how often they update it, and I don't know, how it takes a long time to get through the paperwork. And I've done the research. If it were quite so easy and, just like that, I would have done it myself a long time ago. But it's not. It's a process. And, you really, informed is better than not informed. And you can easily check it out. People shouldn't be hiding that stuff. Another thing to look out for with a rescue is, if puppies are always readily available and seem to constantly appear out of nowhere, you have to ask yourself, are they breeding them? There are some less than reputable people who just are out there looking to turn a buck, and they have the dogs at their disposal. They'll do what they've got to do. So if there's no clear story to follow, if there's not, again, pass the smell test. If there's like always these miraculous puppies popping up out of nowhere, ask yourself what's going on with that. A good rescue will be open and honest and transparent about what goes on. That's kind of key. They'll answer questions. They're kind of at your service. Of course, a lot goes on behind closed doors, and that's really the stuff you have to watch out for, and the stuff that's going to be the hardest for you to find out. You know, how these animals are being cared for and housed, very critical. You know, you can make yourself to the public look like anything, and, you know, then you find out that there were animal cruelty charges levied against the rescue and the people involved. You can Google, you know, this is the age of the internet where you can Google the rescue itself, the people involved, and you'll come up with all this information. Lots of horror stories out there, and it's really, really a horrible thing to think that some of these animals need to be saved from the people who are supposedly saving the animals, you know. And this isn't intended to try to make this out to be like this whole big rescue witch hunt. But if you are trying to do the right thing, you know, you're trying to get an animal safe and into a rescue and et cetera and so on, you really, sometimes you really have to question, you know, did you just take that animal and put it out of the frying pan into the fire? So do your homework. You know, you can discreetly network. If you have any questions about a particular organization, you know, talk to volunteers, talk to foster homes, talk to people who have adopted from there. You know, again, not to make it a witch hunt and not to try to like put out accusations, but you can very easily, you know, hey, have you ever heard about, you know, anything about such and such? I get messages like that from time to time. You know, someone's just trying to figure out, you know, they all of a sudden become aware of some place and, you know, there's maybe something going on with an animal, and, you know, before they place them with an unknown or get involved with trying to help them, they'll ask, and that's a good thing, because information is something that people do really need to have. You know, a lot of these places that end up in trouble and having problems start out with the best of intentions. They truly want to save animals, but they get in over their heads and they become nothing more than a common hoarder. You know, it's really, really sad, but the bottom line is that the animals' welfare should come first and foremost. They should be kept in a clean environment. They should be kept healthy. If they've got medical issues, they should be being treated. And unfortunately, a lot of times you get this story that hits the news that some rescue has sick animals. They're not in you know, the best of conditions. They're sick. They're uncared for. They're in filth, and that's, you know, who's saving these animals from their saviors? You know, I wrote an article in my column when rescue isn't rescue, and it kind of addresses some of the same stuff. Some people really, like I said, have the best of intentions and just get in over their head. It's hard to care for a lot of animals. Most rescues don't have a facility. They maybe have a lot of animals in their home or a number of animals in their own homes, and they're dependent on foster homes, and, you know, it's how things are going on in their own little grasp that gets put under the microscope. And really it should. Like I said, it is very hard to care for a lot of animals and keep everything up, and you know, you really just, no matter who you are, shouldn't take on more than you can chew. And then there's the whole side of the people who are just in it because they're greedy and they're dishonest, and that's really hard to weed out as well. But the signs are usually there, and you just have to be aware of what's going on. You know, you really do try to do your best when you're trying to put an animal in someone else's care, but you can't, I don't know, at the end of the day, you know, taking an animal out of one bad situation and putting it into another is just really tough. There's plenty of rescues out there who are fabulous, who are in it 100% for the animals, and they're on the up and up, and, you know, kudos to them. And certainly I appreciate and commend the work that you do. And it's fewer, I think, that are suspect than are the troubles. But I just thought that this was probably a good topic considering it came up on the page, and it really is a valid line of questioning. And when someone ever said, well, what makes a good rescue? I said, yeah, that's probably something that maybe people need a little advice on, and that's what I hope to have given you tonight. And if you've got any concerns or questions, there are local authorities. There's your local animal control. There's a state animal control, the Department of Agriculture. You can force an inquiry, and again, certainly don't make it a witch hunt. Keep your personal feelings out of it. Oh, I don't like her, I'm going to make trouble. I don't like him, let me stir it up. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to make this a witch hunt. You've absolutely got to leave it to the welfare of the animals to be the primary concern, regardless of personal feelings, regardless of, past history with somebody. It's the animals that matter, and that's all she wrote with that. Anyway, there's a few events this weekend. One of them is for our recent guest, Project Precious Rescue, and it's not too late to get on board for that. That was from 5 to 9 tonight in Bridgeport, and you can check out the Pound Posse Presents page for more information on that. Tomorrow, there's a fill-a-truck for the Meriden Humane Society from 11 to 3 in Wallingford. That's also posted on the Pound Posse Presents page. And, go and like my page. That's all I'm saying. Tomorrow from 1 to 8, there is an event for Angel Capone Pit Bull Rescue, and that's in Orange, I think I said, or not said, but there's live bands and all kinds of stuff going on there, and that'll be a lot of fun. And, there's always all kinds of really neat stuff that people come up with to do to try to help provide for the animals and help the rescues along, and I've seen a lot of really cool things, and so keep them coming and try to support the animals. That's all I'm going to say to that. I think they need you as much as anybody else does. Anyway, kind of winding down here, I will share with you a story of a friend of mine out there who literally had a ferret show up on her front doorstep. I mean, a ferret's not something that belongs out in the wild. You just don't find a ferret running down the street. Never mind how this thing knew to show up on her doorstep is beyond me. But, really, that and I've seen so many more stories recently about people who are leaving their homes and leaving their dogs just tied out in the back to fend for themselves. I read a really disturbing account of somebody, excuse me, who posted about a dog who was left for who knows how long, came to the attention of somebody because it was out there crying in pain. The thing was old, the poor dog was older. He was riddled with tumors and sickness and, just miserable, and they did have to put him down. But, really, if you're somebody who's moving and can't take the dog, you could do a whole lot better than just leaving it tied out in a yard by itself. It's not going to survive. People aren't just going to pick up and take your animal. There was a few weeks ago I read something about a dog that was left in an abandoned house, and the property was gated and locked, and the dog was on the other side of the locked gate and nobody could get to it. It was like one of those wrought iron gates, and people were throwing it food, but a lot of times local animal controls won't necessarily step in because it's a property, and there's a lot of sometimes red tape. So really, if you can't take care of an animal anymore, please be responsible about what you do. Animals don't belong just let loose. I can't take care of it anymore, someone will pick it up. That's not what's going to happen. Too often it's going to fall into the wrong hands. It's not going to survive. There's all kinds of wrong people out there. There was a story, a dog was stolen out of somebody's car. Don't leave your dogs in the car when you go in the store. People are too willing to pick up animals, flip them, sell them, bring them to a lab for experimentation, set them up with people as bait dogs in dog fighting rings. I mean, it's a dangerous world out there for animals, and you just have a heart. If you really and truly can't find a place for that animal to go, the best advice is, okay, find a shelter to take it, even if it has to be the pound. It's better chances than, just letting it loose on the street. It's an animal's just, it's too dangerous out in the street, and it deserves more than the fear and the loneliness and the fending for itself and the things that could happen to it. It's if you know that you absolutely are changing something in your life, and you can't have an animal for whatever reason in your world anymore, plan it out, plan ahead. Don't wait until the last minute. That animal who has lived with you for 8, 10, 15 years, I see all these seniors being dumped, and it breaks my heart. Plan ahead. Don't make your lack of interest in what happens to the animal someone else's emergency. Like, oh, I'm moving tomorrow and I can't take my dog. I need someplace for it to go, or I'm going to let it loose on the street. Don't take that attitude. I can remember when I was with the shelter with Sarah, there was some guy who pulled up in the U-Haul truck. Oh, I can't take my dog with me here. We're here to drop him off. We couldn't take him. This big crazy dog with obviously no training and no skills, and he was just like, all right, I'm going to let it go. So be responsible, people, please. Provide for these animals. And it's that time again. I'm going to say until next week, peace, love, and dogs. Have a great rest of the weekend. Sure, he prematurely did this to me. Oh, yeah. So now Zach and I are going to have our little thing.